Influencers are poisoning society. They've evolved from casual vloggers and creators of silly dance trends to powerful forces that shape minds, behavior, and even political agendas in ways you don't realize. In this documentary, you'll discover how governments are secretly using influencers to spread propaganda, how unregulated content on platforms like TikTok is destroying an entire generation, and the shocking criminal behavior some of these influencers are hiding behind the facade of their likable online personas. How did influencers become powerful enough to sway political beliefs on a global scale? What kind of content is slipping through the cracks to target vulnerable kids? And what dark secrets are being exposed when the masks finally come off? Each new story reveals a more disturbing layer of the toxic influence that's quietly changing our world. First, let's dive into one of the most unsettling aspects of influencer culture, the way it's been weaponized for government propaganda. Influencers are no longer just trendsetters, they're becoming mouthpieces for powerful agendas. From US military recruitment to North Korean propaganda influencers shaping an alternate reality, and even major influencers pushing controversial political figures. This section will expose how influencers have become tools of control in the hands of the most powerful people in the world. The government is paying YouTubers and influencers to brainwash you into joining the military.
I am here at Fort Benning to see what it takes to be an Army soldier.
For the next 50 hours, I'm going to be experiencing Army airborne training.
I am getting to pretty much join the Navy for a day.
Welcome to the headquarters of the United States Secret Service.
Thank you so much to the United States Army for sponsoring.
Go Army gave me the opportunity to experience things firsthand.
Any interest in joining the Army? Can't thank the Army enough.
With the U.S. Army.
Go Army.
Gym bros, gamers, travel vloggers, lifestyle channels. The government is wasting millions of our taxpayer dollars trying to pressure Gen Z into service. And the reason is shocking. What's even more bizarre is that no one is talking about it. Maybe they don't want to offend their influencer friends, or even worse, they're waiting for their own paycheck. Why is the United States government, the most powerful country in the world, paying a group of kids to try to recruit other kids? And just how dangerous is the narrative they're spreading? The US is facing a military recruitment crisis. In 2013, 58,000 men enlisted for service, compared to only 37,700 who enlisted in 2023. That's a 35% decline in just 10 years. Since 2015, the US military has consistently failed to meet its recruitment targets, which is terrifying when you want to maintain your pedigree as the strongest military power in the entire world. And the same thing is happening across the pond. The British Army is the smallest it has been since 1714, and the recruitment crisis is so bad that senior military officials want the government over there to reintroduce conscription.
There's been a bit of talk this week about possible return of conscription. Briefly, can you ever see circumstances in which that might happen?
We may have no choice. The recruiting system that the armed forces has is failed miserably.
Which basically forces people into joining the military. But the US knows that Gen Z has lost trust in its institutions. The war in Afghanistan, the support of Israel, and the very divisive politics in our country has made the younger generation lose hope and trust in the government. So they know trying to use force or coerce them into service will only lead to more pushback. So what do? They turn to influencers.
And I am behind an Apache helicopter.
Humans are very social creatures. We evolved to listen to each other and learn from one another, which is great for the most part. But a huge downside to this is that social proof becomes more important than anything else when presented with a choice to make. Instead of critically thinking for ourselves, we just go with what everyone else is doing. We conform. From ancient Roman gladiators promoting wine and oil, to Queen Charlotte's name and likeness being used by Wedgwood to sell his stuff, to modern-day celebrities and influencers. We've always had people who we hold in high regard or trust, convincing us to do or buy things. Think about it. Your preferences for a particular fashion style, hobbies, and even opinions on certain matters have changed because of a social media influencer you follow. What's worse is when you follow and like one, the social media algorithms keep serving you others like them, until very soon you're in your own little echo chamber where you keep hearing the same things over and over again.
Thank you so much.
Can't thank the Army. Go Army.
Businesses know this. That's why the influencer marketing industry currently stands at $21 billion in 2023, with number numbers predicted to keep increasing every single year. And one of the biggest paying customers of this industry is the United States government. I don't have an issue with the government working with influencers. In fact, I think it's a great way to engage with the younger generation, to meet them where they're at. Things like increasing voter participation, promoting public health campaigns, and advocating for climate consciousness are great. The problem I have is with what they've chosen to promote, and even worse, how they've chosen to promote it. Influencers are really good at one thing, making everything look good, including the army. Why fly a fake plane sitting in front of your boring TV at home when you can fly the coolest and fastest aircrafts equipped with the most sophisticated and tactical weapon systems in the world in real life?
All right, guys, we are currently inside of an Apache helicopter. We just got a briefing on the entire thing. Apparently, this is basically one of the most lethal air vehicles in the entire world right now.
Who cares about Call of Duty and Fortnite when the thrill of the real world is right there waiting for you?
It was time to take my seat at the mop. The first thing I'll say is that to some extent, it really did feel like I was playing a video game.
Are you a fitness enthusiast? The Army has well-rounded fitness programs with challenging workouts to push your body to its limits and improve your strength and stamina.
The Army Combat Fitness Test. There are 6 different events, and we will be graded on an age and gender performance norm scoring scale. This will be testing different fitness components such as strength, endurance, power, and coordination. We got to do this alongside other soldiers who were testing, and y'all know I love fitness and working out, so this was my time to show up, test my limits, and have some fun.
Want to de-stress? Take shooting lessons to calm you down.
I'm going to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
And after firing off a few test rounds...
Woo!
Not bad though, right?
Perfect. Yay!
Want to travel the world and experience different cultures? Well, we have over 700 bases in over 80 countries in the world. You'll travel completely for free, interact with locals, except when you have to shoot some of them in the face. But don't worry about that. You'll get the best food to satisfy all your cravings.
We're gonna see how it goes down in the kitchen, how they cook for all the soldiers, and we're also going to see their mobile tent outside where they would typically cook if they were in the middle of nowhere.
Steak, this is with mozzarella and spinach.
Dang! Steak, mozzarella, spinach. That's good. Thank you.
And now to my personal favorite, influencers suggest that joining the US Army can bring an end to your search for high-paying jobs. All you need to do is go Army, and ladies, you can go shopping as much as you like. And guys, you can buy that new gaming PC or that fancy Lambo.
People think you're poor if you join the military. That's not the case. I just got paid, so I went shopping. I spent $10,000. I got a pair of Louboutins, those were $800. And I got this off-white coat, $1,000. And then I got this bracelet from Dolce & Gabbana, it was $900. And then I got a David Yurman bracelet, $500. Don't know if I'll ever wear it. Sunglasses from Dior. I look like a tool. Carhartts. This was $200. I don't know. It's alright.
We headed back to the barracks to get some rest, and here is a quick tour of the barrack that I stayed in. I didn't have any expectations before entering the barracks, so I was very surprised with how nice it was. This was a suite style room, so there were 2 bedrooms, and the rooms were actually very spacious. It honestly reminded me of a much bigger version of my college dorm, and it even had its own closet, which was a lot of extra space. For the rest of the suite, there was a shared kitchen and also a shared bathroom. Today was a very fun and tiring day, so once I got back to the barracks, I went straight to bed to prepare for tomorrow.
Watch enough of these videos, and you would think that the US Army offers you whatever form of luxury you want out of the world. But in reality, the life of a service member is much more bleak than the fancy editing and soulful music portrays. In 2022, 30.6%, more than 4.8 million veterans, reported having at least one disability, which is almost double the percentage of disabilities in the general public, which isn't surprising if you think about the reality of life in service for more than a 30-second TikTok. The Army is built for one thing: destruction of the enemy. The Gen Zs who consume content from military-sponsored influencers can easily forget this, with the Army presenting itself as a gym membership tip or lifestyle hack of some sort. Having to be combat ready at all times takes its toll on you both physically and mentally. Being in the military also puts a strain on your relationships, couples having to be separated for months or years, children having unhealthy relationships with their parents, and loss of friendships both on and off the battlefield are valid issues that the US Army does not seem to provide information on anymore. These days, all things are bright and beautiful when you join the Army, but that's far from the reality, very far. Veterans who lived through the 20th century experienced some of the most brutal wars in recent history.
I was the only one up there that wasn't hurt and scared to death. So I started asking, screaming for help. Somebody get up here and help me. I'm alone. And then two little heads. I was down, and all I could see was his head and shoulders. He had a hard hat on. And then I saw the red emblem. It was. And then when I could see a silhouette, I blasted him.
We were in a couple different villages in Sarobi, which is a city right next to Charbonne. And they were right next to a kalot. A kalot's a house, like a little mud hut. And a lady came out. You don't shoot women or children on the battlefield, but we were just so into the moment. We watched her pick up the rifle, and that was, well, the machine gun, and that was the cue. And we just lit her up. And I remember just watching, there was three of us, and we just opened up, and it was just blood up against the wall. She just slumped over, and it's like, all right, we got her.
Well, we fought the Germans to win the war. That's what was bred into you. And it took me until about 1970 before I could really, see me way clear. I have nothing against them now. It took me all that time to realize they were the same as us doing what they had to do.
I bet that seeing the recent recruitment styles by the US Army would have their jaws, some of which would be weakened by the horrors of war hitting the ground. Sure, you can make some long-lasting friendships within the military. But US Army recruiters aren't including it in their marketing, that you may also lose all of these friendships in one afternoon, and that's if you make it out alive yourself. This constant fear and trauma is what makes PTSD so common within the veteran population.
2 million Americans served in Afghanistan and Iraq, and at least 600,000 have been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder.
You'll hear the sounds of fireworks popping up this 4th of July, but those celebrations can actually cause anxiety for people who've been through the trauma of war.
Post-traumatic stress disorder is very real. People who experience trauma of any sort, whether it's military service or a traumatic event, can have flashbacks, can have extreme stress and anxiety responses that are far beyond what anybody who's never experienced that kind of stress can experience. Part of the protective mechanism when you're in a war zone is to protect your space. And so when people that have been in the military especially feel confined, they feel threatened. And that sense of threat isn't something that you can just let go of just because you're transferred out of a war zone into your own suburb. That stays with you for a long time, sometimes your whole life. And it's very easy to begin to relive those moments through your own anxiety. You may not feel like you're there, but you have the feeling inside as if you were there.
And that's not to mention the destruction of your moral compass. One thing you'd agree with me on is that the desire to survive is innate. So what happens when you're in a situation where this desire is constantly on overdrive? Soldiers are pushed to the limits of their minds, suppressing any sense of morality by intentionally targeting as many enemies as possible. When you're a soldier on the battlefront, it doesn't matter that the men in front of you love their country as much as you do yours. It doesn't matter that they also have families waiting for their return. Once their sense of preservation overcomes you, there's no time to investigate who deserves it and who doesn't. If they're bearing the enemy's flag, they're done. Who executes this offender? Not the TikTok soldier showing off his wicked guns, not the Instagram military baddie flaunting her shopping bags. It's a whole new person, driven by an otherworldly sense of perceived justice. But unfortunately, that person doesn't leave once you return home. They stay with you and haunt you for the rest of your life. You suffer with trust issues, worrying about espionage and spies everywhere you look. The value of a human life reduces before your very eyes, because just a few months ago, all they were targets. games, like Call of Duty, except this time the blood splatter is real, and so are the screams of pain. If you make it out alive, survivor's guilt could weigh you down for the rest of your life, and if you don't, well, all your family gets is $100,000, which could very well be the same amount the military paid that influencer for one video. Being in the army is not glitz and glamour. It's not a travel hack or a chance to get a big payday. It doesn't matter if you're a medic there to save lives, a delivery guy for army supplies, a civil engineer working on base.
This is my first time changing a tire, and these soldiers were telling me how important it is to take care of the vehicles. I don't think there is anything more rewarding than learning and doing something for the first time.
Aviation officer leading combat missions. If you've got that uniform on, you're a target, and all is fair in war. This is the problem with the Go Army's influencer campaign. It's brainwashing young people into thinking service is an easy life with lots of cool perks and fun activities. At least the older generation was well aware of the reality of service before enlisting. As a result, there was a mental preparedness that came with that. Still, it didn't make the experience any easier for them. How much worse would it be for a generation of people who have been deceived, hoodwinked, and bamboozled?
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived.
Pitching military service to vulnerable young people in this way lessens the impact of such a commitment. Most people who are targeted by these influencer marketing campaigns weren't even following these influencers to get life-changing advice. They just want some travel life hacks or a new workout routine. It's all lighthearted stuff, and this is a ploy by the US government to group recruitment into other such trivial decisions, so you don't think too hard about it. It is an attempt to lure people based on their desire to belong and their admiration for these social media influencers who seem to hold the secret to better living in this crazy world. Don't be shocked that if this continues, there will be a stark contrast between the views of the older generation on military service and what young people today think of it. So, what's the solution? Should people avoid the military altogether? Of course not. There are still young men and women who value service to the country and count it as an honor to impact the world in this way. The difference is that such people join the army with a good grasp of the seriousness of such commitment. So, the goal of the United States government should be to approach army recruitment as transparently as possible. If anyone would be an influencer for the army recruitment process, they shouldn't merely be gym bros looking for some new challenge, or YouTubers who are hired to frolic around bases, showing off basic things they find fascinating. War veterans with more experience and a sense of responsibility may be a better fit. No one is asking the army to outrightly spell out gory details as they invite people to join them. However, we can strike a balance between marketing and ethics by providing the right amount of information. That should be the goal. It is one of the greatest ironies of humanity that a country officially known as the Democratic People's Republic of Korea is a totalitarian nightmare with a brutal dictator that has no care for his people, their freedom of expression, or even consciousness. Limited internet access, food insecurity, constant abuse of human rights. These are just some of the things that we've come to equate with life in North Korea. Or is that just what the Western media would like you to think? This is Song A, an influencer who rose to fame on YouTube in 2022 when she was just 11 years old.
Have you ever been to Pyongyang?
She was your average child influencer, with the only difference being that she was North Korean. The reason this shocked the entire world is that the internet isn't as easily accessible in North Korea as it is in the rest of the world. It's so guarded that most of its citizens are not even aware it exists. Described as the world's worst internet black hole, only a select few high-level officials and foreigners get access to the internet, and even that is very limited. The rest of the population have to rely on the country's national intranet. Social media apps like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube are alien to them. So imagine everyone's shock when we saw Song A pop up on our recommendation. A North Korean on YouTube, and a child at that? Were things finally changing in the country, or were Western governments simply spreading harmful propaganda about North Korea this whole time? Song A was interesting. She spoke with an over-the-top quasi-British accent.
And everyone is just fine.
And unlike what we hear in the news, she appeared to be well exposed to the world outside her country, going as far as showing off her favorite book, Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling. She said she lived in Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, and its largest city, which she described as magnificent and beautiful. Song A wasn't all talk though. She took her viewers through the city's experience, showing off its exotic water parks, where everyone was happy, and without a care in the world. While most of the world seemed to have moved on following the heat of the COVID-19 pandemic between 2019 and 2021, North Korea confirmed its first case in May 2022. Prior to this, the already secretive government took extreme measures to prevent the spread of the disease within its borders. It also refused to implement a vaccination program at first, eventually locking down major cities upon discovery of COVID cases. In the West, we were told that people died as a result of starvation because they weren't allowed to leave their homes to work and fend for themselves. But Song A sang a different tune. She made a video where she shared her experience with military doctors and said the pandemic was being well managed. Song A's influencer campaign came to an end when people learned about her true identity. She is the daughter of Im Jun-hyuk, a North Korean high-profile official who served as the counselor for maritime affairs at the DPRK embassy in London. It finally made sense why she talked the way she did. Prior to this, she gave her mom the credit for her fluency, saying she taught her English from a young age. That's not all there is to Song A's privilege, though. Her great-grandfather, Ri Ul-sol, was directly connected to the Kim family, serving as an elite officer in charge of their protection. He was also among an elite group that opposed Japanese colonialism, along with Kim Jong-il. Her grandfather is also the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, Park Myung-guk. Basically, Song A belongs to the creme de la creme of North Korean elites. That level of privilege explains why she was able to do her influencer job, except it's not all fun and games. The girl and her videos were propaganda tools in the hands of North Korean leaders to change public opinion about the country. These truths were revealed by Thaw Yong-ho, a top South Korean lawmaker who served as a North Korean diplomat until he defected to the South in 2016. He revealed that he worked with Song A's father, Jun-hyuk, at the embassy. Song A herself admitted in one of her videos that her last name is Im. YouTube has since taken down Song A's channel with its 20,000 subscribers. But North Korea is far from backing down on its influencer campaign. And the craziest thing is that it seems to be working. Who exactly is falling for this? Well, we'll get to that right after we meet Victoria K. Song A was a North Korean citizen who has most likely been brainwashed like every other DPRK national. Also, she was a child who simply read out a well-crafted script, albeit with some poor acting. The propaganda was quite obvious. The North Korean leaders figured this out, and so they went back to the drawing board and tweaked their approach. Why use citizens who everyone will be convinced are brainwashed when you can pay influencers to do the job for you? I mean, it's literally their job to influence public opinion. Victoria K is a self-acclaimed Russian girl in Pyongyang, which is exactly what is written in one of her Instagram bios. We say one of because she has two accounts, one in Russian and the other in English. However, both accounts have one purpose: to sell North Korea to you. No, not as the war-hungry country you constantly see on CNN, but as a travel destination for wanderlusters. Victoria K, most active on Instagram as at Kisa_in_Korea, is a 23-year-old Russian content creator who first appeared on Instagram in November 2023, posting sites from North Korea that you won't find anywhere else. She has since amassed a following of almost 58,000 followers at the time of this video's release. Her lifestyle type of content makes it seem like she's on a long vacation in DPRK, except she actually lives there, or that's what she would have us believe. When she's not participating in some exotic sport like skiing or golfing, she's eating a high-end meal in a fine dining restaurant. It's so well curated, you'd assume that you're watching a travel blogger document her experiences in a place like Paris, London, or Dubai. But how? For all we know, social media use in DPRK is almost non-existent, yet Victoria K posts consistently on 4 social media platforms: Instagram, TikTok, Telegram, and even YouTube. Now, that's something to be curious about. We do know that such privileges are only given to a select few, and for a specific purpose, just like we saw with Song A. That's why people have theorized that Victoria has some ties to the Russian embassy in North Korea. Some of her videos have a diplomatic undertone to them, as she celebrates any interactions between Russia and North Korea. Song A didn't quite sell, especially to foreigners, but a beautiful young Russian influencer seems to be doing the trick for the Hermit Kingdom. Her comment section has people who express their doubts, most of which are valid, as you'll soon see. But there are others who genuinely believe the story Victoria K is telling. This is worrying, because it means that the propaganda is working. Sure, it's just a few people now, but if this keeps working, who's to say they won't hire even more people from more parts of the world? What if they start targeting young kids on platforms like TikTok, brainwashing them into believing in the supremacy of the supreme leader? The reality is that life in North Korea is not all sunshine and rainbows, and you don't even need Western media or an influencer to tell you that. You can see it for yourself. First off, the country's own shady rules and approach to the outside world say a lot. Second, the content shared by these influencers seems to be carefully scripted and acted out. 11-year-old Song A's acting skills betrayed her. But for Victoria K, the consistent absence of other people from her pictures and videos gave her away. Pyongyang, where she claims to live, has been reported to have a population of over 3 million people. But you'll hardly see anyone in the background of her videos and pictures. The amount of people who lose their lives in a desperate attempt to flee the country also tells you the condition of life there. And those who were able to make it tell stories of the inhumanity they had to endure while they were there. In 2023, a man named Kim fled the country with his pregnant wife, his mother, and some extended family members. Why did he undergo such a dangerous mission? One was to avoid death by starvation, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic in the region. Food became more scarce, and lockdown rules were severe. Constant oppression was another reason he cited, with public executions, unjust imprisonments, and bullying being the norm. Timothy Cho, another defector who escaped the country in 2004, gave similar reasons. He described the DPRK as a prison country, where he was constantly brainwashed. Timothy was eventually abandoned by his parents when he was just 9. They fled the country after they learned that they would be politically persecuted and sent to a concentration camp. A viral video surfaced in 2017 as a man fled across the Demilitarized Zone, DMZ, towards South Korea. Soldiers soon appeared behind him, shooting at him simultaneously till he was hit. But thankfully, he fell in safe hands. Years later, he was revealed to be Oh Chong-song, the son of a North Korean general, and the men who shot at him were other soldiers with whom he served the DPRK. Why would anyone take such a risk with armed soldiers on their heels if there was nothing worth running away from, as the DPRK influencers suggest with their content? His feedback about the country was the same: starvation, corruption, and health crises. In fact, some parasites were detected in his body upon medical examination. If someone who was reportedly born into a well-to-do military family suffered these, what would life be for the regular man or woman? The biggest DPRK defector story is that of Ta Young-ho, the diplomat turned defector turned South Korean politician. Although he had been in the system for 50 years, he ultimately defected, citing reasons like Kim Jong-un's brazen execution of those who opposed him. When Kim Jong-nam, the supreme leader's half-brother, was executed, it convinced Young-ho that no one was actually safe. He also worried about his children's future. Ta Young-ho described life in North Korea as slavery, not the paradise that Song A and Victoria K are showing the world. If there is one thing North Korea loves, it's some good propaganda. For a country who doesn't seem to care about the rest of the world, let alone want to relate with it, its leaders have an obsession with looking good to outsiders. In 2013, creators from Vice HBO visited the country. They were taken to a computer lab where, just like Song A, people with horrible acting skills tried to give the impression that they could access the internet. It backfired, especially this clip of a man who remained on the Google homepage doing nothing. Yet, DPRK-friendly pages and creators continue to pop up on different social media apps as part of the state-driven propaganda. Now, it is left to the rest of us to stay informed and unrelenting in the pursuit and defense of truth. Our country is more divided than ever before, and with the election being so close, everyone is picking a side. These are some of the biggest influencers who have pitched their tent in the red corner. One of them has even gone as far as spending over $100 million to show just how much he wants the MAGA king to rule again. Who are these influencers, and do they actually like and believe in Donald Trump as they claim? Or is there a secret incentive that they stand to gain if he does become president? Although social media influencer, in the conventional sense of the word, does not quite define what he does, you'd have to agree that he is an influencer to some degree. Not only does Musk own one of the world's largest and most visited social media platforms, X, with about 600 million users, his account is also the most followed on the app, with 200 million followers. That's more than 30% of users on the platform. Social media influence doesn't get any bigger than this. Elon Musk's support for Donald Trump is notable because he has supported the Democratic Party in the past. In 2016, he voted for Hillary Clinton and endorsed Andrew Yang in the 2020 primaries. He also claims to have voted for Joe Biden in the 2020 elections. But in 2022, he stated that he was shifting towards the Republican part of the divide and encouraged voters to choose the party in the elections that year. Suspicions about his support for Trump began to surface when he restored his account to the app that year. However, he eliminated all doubts. becoming more vocal about his support in July this year. It started when Bloomberg reported that he had donated a sizable amount to American PAC, a group dedicated to getting Trump to the White House. Shortly after, he stated in an interview that he actually created the group and has ramped up his support for Trump both online and offline. In August, jumped on an X Spaces session that lasted over 2 hours, inviting their tens of millions of followers to listen in. Elon even suggested that Donald Trump recruit him to serve in his cabinet, to which Trump gladly agreed.
Said if he is elected, he would tap Tesla CEO Elon Musk for a cabinet position.
Less than 2 months later, the Federal Election Commission filings revealed that he donated $75 million to American PAC, which in turn began to award $1 million daily to voters who signed a petition for the First and Second Amendments to the Constitution. He also began to show up physically at DT campaign events. These days, he spends most of his time praising Trump and encouraging people to vote for him.
But there's a lot of people out there who need to vote for President Trump, okay?
While constantly shooting bitter criticism at Kamala Harris, the candidate for the opposing Democratic Party. There have also been rumors that he manipulates X to amplify tweets supporting his candidate or criticizing Harris while preventing misinformation from spreading on the platform. What exactly does Elon Musk stand to gain from all these, though? One speculation is that it is a purely business-oriented move. He clearly wants to do a lot with his technology-driven businesses, but government regulations go a long way to make or mar the success of his projects. Observers believe that by supporting DT's campaign, the ex-president would be forced to consider him when making decisions that could affect his businesses in the future. Reactions to Elon Musk's goal to make America great again.
America's just not just going to be great. America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before.
Have varied among both Republican and Democrat supporters. Some are excited to have such an influential figure supporting their preferred candidate, while others are concerned that he might sway government officials later, interfering with what democracy should be. What exactly is the big deal about social media influencers supporting Donald Trump or any other political candidate at that? Why should we care? Well, remember how you decided to try out a new recipe or visit a restaurant because your favorite social media creator recommended it? Or how you decided to check out a new song just because they used it as the audio for their TikTok? That's exactly what happens when they share their political views, no matter how subtle. Influencers have millions of followers that cut across different ages, ethnicities, and genders. By partnering with political candidates, they give them even more reach than traditional media ever could. Influencers are also so called because a lot of people trust their opinions, and so they have more effect on public opinion than most people like to admit. The same way influencers can convince their followers to hop on the hottest dance trends or slangs, they can affect every other area of life, including political decisions. This is how they are able to drive voter mobilization, since they have access to young people who normally would not be as interested in politics. Think about the number of young people in the United States who are qualified to vote, and you'll see why this is a big deal. If you're not convinced, consider the role that social media has played in some of the world's biggest political movements in recent times. The Black Lives Matter movement gained global attention as BLM hashtags continued to trend with influencers leading the charge. We all saw how that translated to real life on the streets, didn't we? We've also noticed crucial changes in our world since the #MeToo hashtag began to appear and trend on social media. Instances like these make it obvious that social media is just as powerful as life offline, if not more. If a person is influential there, best believe they have a say on what happens in real life. Actually, social media is real life now, and that makes it all the more important. We must also consider the possibility that social media influencers can tilt their influence in the direction of the money. Think about it. Influencing is a full-time job for these folks, and they will take on the best-paying gigs, even if they are political figures they might not personally agree with. This isn't merely hearsay, by the way. In September this year, U.S. prosecutors alleged that an American media company had paid some influencers to create and post videos that favored the Kremlin. The source of these funds was allegedly 2 Russian nationals working for a Putin-controlled news network with the aim of interfering with the upcoming U.S. elections. Apparently, the Tennessee-based company behind the influencers worked with them to push narratives that would lead to divisions within the country, turning the US government's attention from subjects Russia was interested in, like the war in Ukraine. Some of the evidence that has been found so far points to Tenet Media as the company being spoken of. This is the company under which YouTubers like Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, and Benny Johnson work. Altogether, these influencers have a total subscriber count of 6.3 million on the app. As if to bolster the suspicion, YouTube has closed down the Tenet Media channel and others operated by its owner. However, the case is still being investigated. This just goes to show that we'd be ignorant to overlook the possibility that social media influencers can be paid to canvass votes for a specific candidate. And you know who has enough money to do this? Donald Trump, the billionaire. This isn't to say that that's exactly what is happening with the influencers supporting him, but it's certainly worth pondering on. Donald Trump is already an influential figure thanks to his wealth, his big persona, and, of course, his past role as the President of the United States of America. Combine his influence with that of top social media influencers, and you'd have Trump's name on everyone's lips. Would this be good or bad? We'll let you decide. 29-year-old Logan Paul has more than 23 million subscribers on his personal YouTube channel and almost 5 million on the Impulsive podcast channel. With 27 million followers on Instagram, 18 million on TikTok, and 6 million on Twitter, he's one of the most influential people of his generation. Just look at how fast Prime flies off the shelf.
Excuse me, do you stop that Prime energy drink here?
And you can't even get his new product, Lunchly, because it's almost always sold out, even with all the controversy surrounding it. Logan has always been a controversial figure, so it wasn't that much of a surprise when he endorsed Donald Trump. To announce his guest appearance on the Impulsive podcast, Donald Trump posted a TikTok hinting at a face-off with the social media influencer. In the 6-second video, they approached each other until their noses were only inches apart. Trump ended up laughing and pulling Logan in for what looked like a hug. The influencer followed with pictures on X, one where they both held Paul's WWE Championship belt and another where he was interviewing Trump with Mike Majlak, his co-host. The two had a conversation that lasted for about 45 minutes. They discussed a wide range of matters, including his felony conviction, Russia and Vladimir Putin, aliens, and even Elon Musk. At the start of the podcast, Trump gave Logan a t-shirt with his mugshot on it after the show. "Never surrender," it read. As he received the gift, he said to Trump, "You're a gangster," in what sounded more like a compliment. That podcast now has over 6.5 million views on YouTube. Aiden Ross is a 24-year-old YouTuber and online streamer with more than 4.5 million YouTube subscribers and about 1.5 million followers on Kick. He also co-owns Kick and is its most followed streamer. Prior to streaming on Kick, Aiden had a Twitch channel where he regularly streamed from 2014 until he was banned from the platform in 2023 for what Twitch referred to as unmoderated hateful conduct in chat. Apparently, he had used homophobic slurs and made racist and anti-Semitic remarks.
Wait, did he say anything crazy? Or no?
Aiden Ross hosted Donald Trump on his Kick livestream in August. Apparently, he is friends with Trump's 18-year-old son, Barron Trump, who is also a big fan of the streamer. During the interview, the pair talked about Trump's relationship with other world leaders like Kim Jong-un of North Korea and Xi Jinping of China. He also got the president to react to pictures of politicians and other people. Elon Musk's name also came up here, just like it did on the Impulsive podcast with Logan Paul. At the end of the live stream, Aiden gifted Trump a Cybertruck and a Rolex watch worth over $300,000. This is where things took a weird turn as listeners began to suspect that these gifts were bribes. I have a friend who's currently being treated very unfair by District Attorney Willis. He's a rapper named Young Thug, Aiden Ross said at some point during the live stream. I was just wondering if there's a way that we could make sure he... Why were people concerned? Well, Donald Trump has a history of helping rappers in sensitive legal situations. On his final day in office back in 2021, he granted a full pardon to Lil Wayne, who had been found guilty of possessing a firearm and ammunition as a prior felony offender. Trump also granted a commutation to Kodak Black, another rapper who had been charged with and found guilty of unlawful possession of marijuana, criminal possession of a weapon, and even first-degree criminal sexual conduct. Since Aiden Ross is already a controversial personality, not many people were surprised at how their interaction went. Stream Charts reported that the live stream had over 580,000 viewers and is the third most concurrently viewed live stream on the platform this year. Although some of the social media influencers who have expressed support for Donald Trump are people in their 20s, there are some who are older apart from Elon Musk. One of the most prominent among them is Theodore Kapitani von Kurnatovsky III, popularly known as Theo Von. Theo is best known for his stand-up comedy, but he also has a podcast called This Past Weekend. The podcast, which he also uploads to his YouTube channel with over 3.2 million subscribers, was launched in 2016. Theo also has 7 million followers on Instagram, 7 million on TikTok, and 1.5 million on X. Theo Von hosted Donald Trump on This Past Weekend in August. They talked for about an hour on the podcast, touching rather unconventional topics like drug and alcohol use. The conversation about alcohol was especially interesting since Donald Trump is a known teetotaler. It was also the last thing people expected to hear from him on a show with the elections right around the corner. Theo and Trump eventually got to politics, discussing how the Trump administration would combat drug abuse in the United States.
And there's that Sackler family that pretty much got away with it. You know, they had a financial slap on the wrist, but we're one of the only countries that allows drug advertisements and pharmaceutical companies to advertise on television. Like, what do you think are things that you can do to help curtail that when you get into office?
So, well, we did a great job. Does
that make sense or not?
Yes,
that question?
It does make sense. And we had committees, blue ribbon committees in certain cases, but committees that would meet. The big problem we have is, fentanyl is probably the biggest. Opioid is bad. Opioid is bad too.
While Theo Von has not blatantly expressed support for Donald Trump in the upcoming elections, many have seen the Republicans' presence on his podcast as a form of endorsement. That episode of the This Last Weekend podcast now has 14 million views on YouTube. With the recent appearances that Donald Trump has made on similar podcasts, it would appear that he was on a tour of podcasts with predominantly male listeners. Apparently, there's a political gender gap between Kamala Harris, who has more young women supporting her, and Donald Trump, who has more young men supporting him. According to a recent Harvard Youth poll, 70% of women under 30 support her, while 23% of them said they would vote for Trump. Of the men in the same age group, 53% said they would vote for Kamala Harris, while 36% said they were going for Trump. His interactions with these influencers seem to go beyond getting votes from the general public, but rather from a specific set of people, young men. The 2024 presidential election is one of the most divisive in U.S. history. For one, the ideologies of the Republican and Democratic parties are more polarized than ever. Donald Trump's decision to run again, despite his tumultuous first term as President of the United States and the failed assassination attempts, have also contributed to the buzz around the elections. Considering these, it is important that you pay close attention to each candidate before you make a choice. Endorsements by social media influencers shouldn't form the basis for your vote. But if you thought government influence was alarming, wait until you see how these same tactics are being used to corrode the minds of kids with disturbing and downright disgusting content. Next, we'll explore how influencers are destroying the innocence of an entire generation and the dangers lurking in seemingly harmless content.
To the Sigmas of Australia, I say that this goofy air government have been capping. There will be no phantom tax under the government I lead. They're capaholics. They're also yapaholics. Just put the fries in the bag, little bro. They must have brain rot from watching too much Kai Cenat. Chat, is this Prime Minister serious? Even though he's the Prime Minister of Australia, sometimes it feels like he's the CEO of Ohio. Skibbity.
Skibbity, Ohio, Sigma, Riddler, Ohio, level 0, Gyat. Ohio, Gyat, Riz, I've got my mind, yeah.
What's up, chat? Ready to rizz up this test today?
23.56 million videos are uploaded to TikTok every single day. Most of these videos are mindless loops of emptiness with little to no intellectual or emotional value. Millions of influencers have dedicated their entire lives to creating the most idiotic, brain-dead, and mind-numbing content. The victims, Gen Alpha, whose brains are slowly being rotted. If we do not do something about this soon, there will be an intellectual apocalypse in the next generation, and it'll all be our fault.
You want an iPad?
Yes.
What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen?
I hear it.
Social media influencers are creating a new form of content called brain rot. If you think I'm talking about some kind of disease that's causing the brain to decay, you're right. Except it's not the physical kind. There is decomposition going on in the brain, but there's no smell or sight that would give it away. And that's where the issue lies. Brain rot in itself isn't a new concept. It has existed since as far back as 2007 and was used to describe the addictive behavior of being chronically online.
What is brain rot? There's not a single straightforward definition. One of them is indulging and absorbing large amounts of low quality information that is thought to be associated with deteriorating functioning and a loss of intelligence, hence the brain rot. But the other thing is when you are repeatedly exposed to media in a particular vein, you tend to associate other things with that.
As the internet morphed into the addictive drug that we now have today, people of all generations have grown glued to screens everywhere, on the plane, on the train, in the bathroom, everywhere. But this new wave of content is far worse than anything we've ever seen before. Do you remember what it was like growing up? Shows like Barney and Teletubbies kept you entertained. You'd sit with your eyes fixed on the TV for 20 to 30 minutes as you watched your favorite characters sing songs about trees, colors, or friendship. A Barney character at your birthday party was every child's dream, and we were satisfied. I know I was. But the thing with TV is that there was always a set time for shows. You got back from school at 4 to find something interesting on TV, and usually at 10 p.m., all the kids' shows were done for the night. You also had to physically be in front of the TV to watch it. You couldn't watch it at school when you're out playing, getting food, or just going to the park to get some sunlight. Sadly, that world is long gone. TVs are now palm-sized gadgets that fit into the hands of children, and there's no more scheduled programming. These two features combined together means that there is always something to watch everywhere and at all times. There are 8.6 billion videos uploaded to TikTok every year, and about 1.3 billion uploaded to YouTube. So in just 1 year, there's close to 10 billion videos for these kids to watch. Let's say each video is 1 minute in length on average, including really short TikToks and longer YouTube videos. That's around 10 billion minutes of content uploaded yearly. To watch every single video back to back will take 19,000 years. That's 10,000 years older than the oldest human-made structure that's still in existence. 19,000 years ago, humans hadn't even discovered metals, pottery, or even the wheel. To be fair, a lot of the content uploaded to these platforms are educational, but a lot more of it is mind-numbing nonsense, filled with the same sounds, moves, and stupid challenges designed to condition your brain to keep watching. Researchers have found that the instant gratification that comes from social media use in young people is similar to what you get when you use drugs. The chemical behind this is dopamine, the brain's pleasure neurotransmitter. Your brain produces dopamine when you're doing enjoyable things, and its role in the development of addictions has been well established. However, unlike drug addicts who have to sometimes commit crimes to get the drugs they need to maintain their high, Gen Alpha's drug is only one click away, and the worst part, we're handing it to them them willingly. Let's start with Coco Melon. The channel has 183 million subscribers, with 3 of its videos among the 15 most viewed videos of all time on YouTube. Why? Because it works. All your toddler needs is to hear the high-pitched sound of children shouting Coco Melon, and they'll instantly run in its direction. This is good news for parents who really just want to rest after a long day of work. Give your child their iPad, and you can get some chores done around the house. The problem is, it's a temporary solution with long-term damage. What could possibly be wrong with Coco Melon? It seems to teach basic things like colors,
With orange, yellow, and blue.
shapes,
Shape is this? What's the name of this shape? It's a pentagon.
and nursery rhymes.
The wheels on the bus go round and round all through the town.
There are rhymes on there about sharing, caring, and basic human decency.
Sharing is caring.
And I'll give them that. However, the issue lies with moderation. You see, Coco Melon is both visually and orally captivating, stimulating the brain in ways that the natural world just can never compare. The greenest leaves, the bluest skies, and the reddest flowers exist in that world with its oversaturated images. Children are already naturally curious and drawn to even the most basic things. What happens when you consistently expose them to such brain-stimulating sights? Their brains are saturated early, and they become wired to seek more. More shiny colors, more loud sounds, more... Eventually, one video won't do the trick anymore. It's why you'll find that children don't even watch videos through to the end anymore. They keep scrolling to find the next video with similarly stimulating visuals and high-pitched sounds. It doesn't even matter if it's the same songs being sung or the same objects being viewed. There's just a constant need for more, which sadly doesn't correspond with real-life experiences. While we may not see the immediate effects of brain rot content on toddlers, older Gen Alpha children are helping us see them. Giat, Skibbity, Mewing, Sigma, Looksmaxing.
If your kids or your grandkids are coming home from school, coming to your house using words or phrases that have you like scratching your head and thinking, what are you saying? And you need a Gen Alpha translator, we have got you covered. Here to help us out is our new Generation Alpha correspondent, my son, Christopher. What about just Skibbity? If somebody says Skibbity.
It's like they're calling you cool.
What is Riz, Christopher?
So Riz is like, you use it for pickup lines and stuff.
I have neither Riz nor game.
You can give us a pickup line?
Uh-huh.
Oh boy. Oh, okay,
If you were
buddy.
trash, I would take you out.
If you were trash, I would take you out. That is amazing. The Rizzler.
So Riz is short for charisma.
Is the king of the Riz.
Are you a Rizzler at school? Should I know about this?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no!
Oh, you did the thing! Now wait a minute!
Wait
I know
a
that's
minute.
one of them, isn't it? When you did the face?
Can we skip ahead, Tanner, or should we? Oh no, because this is called mewing. What he's doing.
I don't know what that is. Oh no, man!
He started doing this, and I thought he was having some sort of a seizure.
Mm-hmm.
Is that good? Is it what's Bob doing?
No.
Is that too much? That's too much Riz. I mean, too
No.
much.
That's
Mew.
Ohio.
Oh, that's Ohio.
Skibbity toilet.
Sticking out your giat for the Rizzler. You're so skibbity. You're so phantom tax. I just wanna be your Sigma. Freaking come here. Give me your Ohio. I just wanna be part of your skibbity. Will you hold me tighter? I say you. Skibbity.
Those are just some of the words taking over, not just the internet, but everyday conversations among these young people. Some are outright nonsense, while others promote objectification of humans and crass talk. We should also be concerned about the communication gaps being created across generations, because hey, you can't correct what you don't understand now, can you? How do you know when your child is being exposed to lewd content when you can't even understand the language spoken? You also have the terrible and sometimes downright dangerous challenges, where influencers on TikTok dared people to choke themselves until they lost consciousness.
Tawana Anderson has been fighting for years to get justice for her daughter, 10-year-old Nyla. She died in 2021 from attempting the blackout challenge that dared people on TikTok to choke themselves until they lost consciousness. According to Business Week, Nyla was one of at least 15 children under age 12 who died as a result of the challenge since 2021.
Within the span of just 18 months, between 2021 and 2022, 2022, the Blackout Challenge allegedly killed 20 children, 15 of whom were younger than 12 years old. And that's not the only deadly challenge that we've seen on TikTok. Skullbreaker Challenge involves kicking a person's legs out from under them as they jump into the air. Angel of Death Challenge involves jumping in front of moving vehicles to see if they'll stop in time. Fire Challenge involves starting fires all around the house.
North Carolina teen Mason Dark's family says he's lucky to be alive. The 16-year-old is recovering from burns to 80% of his body after using spray cans and a lighter to make a blowtorch. He'd seen how to do it on TikTok, but one can ignited and flames engulfed Mason's body.
All of these challenges were aimed at young kids, with all of them leading to multiple injuries, lifelong paralysis, and even death. As trends like this take over these platforms, kids don't want to be left out. And so, you'll find young people glued to their phones and looking for the next big trend to join. Sadly, this is a culture that they grew up with, so it's hard to separate them from it. Tween girls are looking for new, trendy dance moves to hop on. They are obsessed with growing up quickly to look like their social media faves, even causing problems at makeup stores like Sephora. Gaming content also ranks high on social media, with boys satisfied with merely watching some anonymous channel on YouTube showing their video game feed. It all points to one problem: the need to see more and digest more information, no matter how pointless. That's what brain rot is all about. What happens in years when these folks are expected to take over the labor market? There are already cries of Gen Z being lackadaisical with work culture and always looking for the easiest way out. With Gen Alpha, no one knows what to expect. Gratification being within easy reach is bad news for society, but there are also serious health issues on the horizon. Eye damage associated with long-term screen use and early exposure to blue light. Insomnia is also becoming more common, especially among young people. That, friends, is a cause for alarm. Gen Alpha being hooked to their phones and iPads isn't bad news to everyone, though. There's a group of people who are cashing out behind the scenes and milking this damage to fill their bank accounts. Brain rot influencers. This is Skibidi Toilet, widely regarded as the chief brain rot content among Gen Alpha.
Can you play Skibidi Toilet?
Sorry?
Can you play Skibidi Toilet?
Skibidi Toilet will be mine, yeah. Ohio Yacht visitors on my mind, yeah.
Not sure what's happening here? Well, no one else is. I mean, what's the point of the singing man's head popping out of a toilet seat? If this were some episode of SpongeBob or Tom and Jerry, maybe we'd be laughing, but there's nothing funny about the head of an obviously mentally deranged character sticking out of a stained toilet. That's just to us, though. Gen Alpha is consuming this in droves. Georgian animator Alexei Gerasimov is the alleged brain behind the Skibidi Toilet trend. He began the series in February 2023 on his YouTube channel, starting with a YouTube short that immediately went viral. He has since released 24 seasons of the Skibidi Toilet series, with 77 episodes altogether. You know the wild part? The premiere episode was 11 seconds long, so each season is only minutes long. It quickly became an internet hit with over 65 billion views on YouTube and more than 23 billion on TikTok. Tom Sings is another influencer heavy on brain rot. His YouTube description says he's just trying to make people laugh with comedy. But what's so funny about this? If you feel like that didn't make any sense, you're not alone. Poor graphics and zero storytelling are the hallmarks of his content, but Tom Sings has over 5 million subscribers on YouTube. His audience? You guessed it, Gen Alpha. You'll also find endless reaction videos where people stitch videos of them reacting to other people's content. No commentary, no real reaction, no value. The point? To chase clout and get some of that influencer money. And of course, there are the people who come up with and promote these stupid challenges. What is so entertaining about eating loads of burgers in one sitting, or being the last to leave a supermarket? The consumption of information like this, if we can even call this information, has even been noticed by governments like Russia. In January 2024, the Russian police began investigating the Skibidi Toilet series for its effects on children after it was reported by a Moscow resident. The videos were also shown to the St. Petersburg Legislative Assembly as they discussed children's safety. Health professionals are also speaking up about this brain rot culture, with content like Skibbity Toilet and Tom Sings videos. It's obvious that Gen Alpha will literally watch anything, as long as it keeps them glued to their phones. The passive consumption associated with brain rot is impeding active learning, and the repetitiveness of the content is limiting the problem-solving skills in Gen Alpha. Do we have any hope for preventing the mass destruction of Gen Alpha brains? I'd say so. As much as social media has a negative impact, it can also have a lot of advantages for the younger generation. Besides, with how much it's been infused into everyday life, it's safe to conclude that it's not going anywhere. So what can we do to curb this pandemic called brain rot? I'd say the bulk of the work lies with those who lived in the years before scrolling through social media became everyone's favorite hobby. These are mostly millennials, parents of the Gen Alpha generation. You have to create rules and structure that limit access to these devices and the content on them. Kids should be encouraged to go outside and touch some grass. Not only does this help their immune system, it also aids their brain development. Take walks with your kids or younger siblings. Help them develop healthy self-esteem outside of how they look, how many views they get, or how many trends they can participate in. Help them appreciate human relationships for who we are. Who knows? We just might be able to redeem this generation after all.
May push harmful content to its young users.
The popular video app is purposefully addictive for kids.
The app and its algorithm can harm children's mental health.
The TikTok platform is like digital nicotine.
TikTok.
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 I'm sure at this point, you're tired of hearing just how dangerous TikTok is. From data privacy concerns to deadly challenges, brain rot, doom scrolling. It seems like everything bad about TikTok has been talked about at length. But what if I told you that there's an even more dangerous side to TikTok? One that is so depraved, it's borderline criminal. And that at the center of it all are some of the most degenerate influencers, scratch that, human beings, that you'll ever come across. Let me paint a picture for you. You're out at dinner with your partner and young child, just trying to have a nice meal. Across the table from you is a young couple also having a meal. Everything is going great until around 30 minutes in, when the lady beside you starts moaning uncontrollably as her boyfriend fiddles with a remote control on one hand and makes a video of her with his smartphone on the other. You're disgusted and leave the restaurant in horror, only to find yourself in a TikTok video later that night that already has 500,000 likes and people in the comments cheering the creators on. This sounds like a fever dream, like something that only happens in those movies you watch in incognito mode, but not anymore. TikTok is trying to normalize this depravity. Just scroll through the app and you'd see a disturbing number of influencers in the KinkTok community going out with RCVs that are activated in public. It's one thing to do this in the privacy of your own home, but why bring it out in public for other people who didn't consent to participate in your fetish? Even worse, why upload it to TikTok, a platform that is famously known for being a kids app? This is Eve. At first glance, she and her boyfriend seem like every other couple sharing a random day of shopping with us, until you watch for more than 3 seconds. It starts with the suggestive puns.
You're taking a really long time looking at beans.
Yeah, sorry, I can't seem to find your bean on the shelf.
Oh my god.
While that's already cringe enough, they take it a step further by doing this.
I'm great for you, aren't I?
Why are you showing us a video of your partner choking you? Why do we need to see that you enjoy it when he does that? Even more damning is the fact that this is being done in public. They obviously aren't in a bedroom or in the Walmart store all by themselves. I mean, it's Walmart. What's even worse, it's supposed to be a child-friendly store, and the particular aisle where this was filmed actually has products for young people. It's one thing if this was filmed in an adult store, but it seems like these people get off on being seen by everyone, and that's just disturbing.
I know you're not salad, but I still want you in my mouth.
Where is the decorum? Where is the shame? Now, before you start talking about how I'm kink shaming, I just want to clarify that I'm not. Kinks are normal. A 2024 study revealed that up to 30% of people have engaged in it, with another study showing that almost 70% of people have at least one BDSM fantasy. If you have a foot fetish or get turned on by cosplaying, you're not alone.
Oops, got what secretly turns you on.
And it's fine, but there is a way to share and talk about these things in a way that isn't disrespectful to everyone around you. It presents the information in such a way that only people who are involved in the community, or at least understand it, will get the reference. That way, those who do not want to be involved are not forced to be participants. The problem with Kink Talk is that it has turned all of us into non-consenting voyeurs. And because of the infinite scrolling nature of TikTok, you don't have to search these things out or even press play for you to watch it.
So I was actually thinking about...
About what, princess?
Well, now I can't think.
Oh no.
It's highly unlikely that they'll stop though. You know why? Because we have people cheering them on in the comments section. The influencer insanity on apps like TikTok milks people's desire to be liked by everyone. These influencers are so obsessed with the number of views they get that they will do anything to keep them coming. I wouldn't be shocked if this entire thing was scripted just to get views. If Eve and her boo were the only ones fanning the flames of extreme kink talk, there wouldn't be a cause for alarm, but they're not. This is Piper, a DIY pet play creator on Kink Talk. Pet play is a kind of kink where one partner acts like an animal, usually a dog, while the other cosplays the owner. It's a fetish, so it's expected to be bizarre. But what happens when this pet play is taken to the public? We now have couples going on walks, except one partner is down on all fours with a leash around their neck. The other person holds on to this leash, and they engage in their dog kink by playing fetch, scooping up meals with their mouths, and running the entire dog circus in public. Apart from the blatant disregard for other people that videos like this promote, it's important to address the fact that they're oversimplifying the complex dynamics involved in relationships like this. Here's what I mean. Kinks are weird, and that's what makes them so attractive. For you to get to a point where you can engage in such practices with your partner, you must have had loads of conversations on consent, trust, communication, and safety. That's far from what these influencers depict, and if it is present at all, it is grossly oversimplified. It's a known fact that BDSM practices, for instance, are risky and can be unsafe, but they're not portraying it that way. Studies have shown that non-natural death in BDSM is a legitimate concern, with asphyxiation due to strangulation and intoxication being the most common causes. Yet, when you check out the comment sections of Kink Talk, you'll find kink apologists going on and on about how participants seem to be consenting. If there's one thing we know from life, though, it's that people often do things they're not comfortable with in the heat of the moment. Besides, portraying kinks like this makes others view them through rose-colored glasses. It's also wild that TikTok has policies against some of these debased behaviors, yet nothing seems to be done about their existence on the platform. Let's not forget that TikTok is still a kids app. Think about the millions of kids that are being exposed to content like this, who may end up romanticizing abusing and toxic relationship dynamics under the guise of exploring themselves. Videos like this will coerce young people into engaging in such practices without proper understanding of why it's done, how it should be done, if at all, and how to do it safely. All they see is a TikTok challenge they want to recreate without understanding everything that goes into making it. Without proper context of the intricacies of kinks like BDSM, we'll be regressing as a society to a time when people were objectified and treated based on what they could offer behind closed doors. Only now, the doors aren't even being closed anymore. Instead, we're being invited into a world none of us asked to be part of, and so are the children. Kink Talk is working hard to normalize behaviors that are considered criminal in many parts of the world. That man just flashed his girlfriend, not at home, not in a hotel room, not even in a car, but in the aisle of a supermarket where anybody could have randomly appeared. Not to mention the security guys on the CCTV who would have to bear the horror of seeing such things without their consent. This couple in New York took things way further than anyone could have imagined. These people were going at it full throttle in the middle of a public park. Can you see the number of kids playing around in that video? This is how society spirals into utter depravity if left unchecked. How long before the sheets come off and kids are forced to watch and participate in this debauchery? Speaking of kids, this is the worst of the worst with Kink Talk. Pedophiles are becoming more brazen with their supposed fetish and are putting it on display for all to see. Take a look for yourself. Maybe if this was a one-time post, we'd say it was probably a mistake, but there are dozens of similar videos on this account talking about the same thing. You know the crazy part? He amassed over 2 million followers by uploading content like this. You'd think that everyone would call for his account to be taken down, or even more logically, for him to be arrested. To be fair, there are some comments that rightly called him out, but there were others that are just as debased. Where do we draw the line? Maybe kinks aren't supposed to be shameful, but can we all agree that they are supposed to be private at least? None of us should care what anyone does behind closed doors, as long as it's between two consenting adults. But let's not forget basic decency and decorum, especially in public spaces where non-consenting individuals and kids are just trying to live their lives. Creating content like this for shock value and views is something we must all collectively reject, especially because it will have real-life consequences. Life is not 50 Shades of Grey, and if the franchise is anything to go by, exploring kinks, especially potentially harmful ones, is not something to be treated lightly. And of course, no one wants to be an actor in a movie they didn't audition for, which is exactly what these influencers are doing to their audiences, both online and IRL. So what's the way forward? We should start with TikTok being held responsible for the kind of content it allows on its platform. It's not enough to have policies about not condoning certain types of content. The company should also implement safeguards and checks to prevent such practices. However, if this is something TikTok is fine with having on its platform, it must find a way to restrict it to those who are interested, especially given how sensitive it is. Maybe a page separate from the For You page that gives you the option to skip potentially sensitive content, like what platforms like Reddit and Twitter offer. We must also address the state of our society and this growing culture of doing just about anything for views. Cancel culture is brutal, but there are some things that actually should be canceled. We must learn to draw the line where necessary. I'll wrap this up by reiterating that having kinks is not a crime. There's no denying that it can add some color to your life and relationships, and no one should be stigmatized for having them. Instead, we should call for more healthy spaces for people to express their desires. However, such spaces must be private and well controlled, and definitely not online, or at least not on platforms where children are given free access. The internet is a shared space, just like the planet we live on. No one is asking lovers of kinky content to leave altogether. However, we must not forget human values of consideration for one another and decency. And if there are people who pose a threat to these, we should not be afraid to speak out against them as we strive to create a safe environment for us all. King talk is terrible for kids, and so is brain rot content. As disturbing as the damage to young minds may be, an even darker side of influencer culture lurks beneath the surface. When you have the entire world eating from the palm of your hand, the lines between right and wrong can blur dangerously. The immense power of influence can create a sense of invincibility, making some feel untouchable. It's this illusion of being above consequences that drives certain influencers into crime, from orchestrating elaborate scams to facing serious accusations of assault. This is where influencer culture becomes truly horrific, the realm of true crime. This is Young Philly, rapper, podcaster, YouTuber, low-budget chef, and now, sexual offender? On October 8th, 2024, the world was shaken as the charismatic social media influencer known for his charm, wit, and humor was placed under arrest in Brisbane, Australia, before being extradited to Perth the following day. Reports revealed that on the 28th of September, 2024, the rapper had performed at a Perth nightclub as part of his music tour in Australia. Shortly after, he returned to his hotel room with a young woman in her 20s. There, he allegedly assaulted and possibly strangled her, as one of the charges he's facing is for impeding a person's normal breathing or circulation by applying pressure to their neck. And this isn't one of those he said, she said cases. The prosecutors have claimed that they have an extremely strong case with both CCTV footage and photo evidence to corroborate their stories. Philly has since been released on bail, with strict conditions that mandate him to remain in the country until his trial is over, and he cannot talk about the details of the court case publicly. Since then, internet users have tried to draw a parallel between the Young Philly they know on screen and what this new development suggests about him. Young Philly, whose real name is Andres Felipe Valencia Barrientos, was born in Colombia on August 6, 1995. He moved to the UK with his mother and sister as refugees. where his career as a YouTuber began. Andres opened his YouTube channel in 2013, posting skits and other funny videos. His fan base grew even more when he began to appear in the dating series Does the Shoe Fit on the Foot Asylum YouTube channel. Having played some football in his early years, he's also popular among football fans and has made appearances in the Pro Direct Soccer YouTube channel. BBC Sport hosted him and his close friend and fellow YouTuber Chunks in a football rivalry series, and he played for England in Soccer Aid 2020. Although he'd been on the social media scene for quite a while, many people only came to know young Philly when he joined the YouTube collective Beta Squad with other British content creators like Nico Omalana, Chunks, AJ Shabil, Sharky, and King Kenny TV. Like others in this group, young Philly is one of the most loved social media influencers in the UK, especially among young people. Unfortunately, these recent allegations have left people wondering about the 29-year-old, whose lighthearted jokes hardly evoke any sense of danger among his fans. How can this young man, so full of life and love, hurt a fly, let alone be involved in something so heinous as SA and assault? One can only wonder. The reaction from brands has been swift. Sidemen took down their video with Philly. Brands who partnered with him have taken down any posts in which he's featured, and the Chunks and Philly live tour has been put on hold. Mind you, all of this has happened, and Philly hasn't been proven guilty of those charges yet. For all we know, it's still just an accusation, and we have to wait for the court's judgment. Unfortunately, this is not the first time some of the internet's most popular influencers are being accused of SA and other similar depraved offenses. From grooming to voyeurism to having sex with a minor, these are some of the worst influencers you'll ever come across. Born Samuel Nicholas Pepper in March 1989, Sam started out as a reality TV star on the 11th season of Big Brother back in 2010. Leveraging the exposure he got on the show, he started a YouTube channel that same year and started to post pranks. As you'd expect for any YouTube prankster, Sam's content brought people mixed feelings, but there was one that revealed just how devious the 25-year-old could be. In a video he titled Fake Hand-Ass Pinch Prank, Sam would go to random women to ask for directions, then pinch them on the bum without their consent. It caused a lot of uproar on the internet. As expected, women began to speak up about how Sam Pepper had sexually harassed them in the video, and the hashtag #ReportSamPepper was soon created on Twitter. Although he came up later to say it was only a social experiment to highlight female-on-male abuse, no one believed that, especially after more allegations emerged about his sexual misconduct and assault. He was accused of soliciting nude photographs from minors, inappropriate sexual contact, and ultimately, SA, a YouTuber, Dottie Martin, alleged that he had non-consensual sex with a woman he once went on a date with. The BBC also published a report where the LAPD admitted to investigating Sam on suspicion of a sexual offense against a woman. According to the police, a 19-year-old woman filed a report that Sam Pepper violated her after they met at a restaurant where she worked. However, he wasn't arrested because she was unwilling to testify. She was concerned about her future and what this revelation would do to her career, so she decided against pressing charges. Another woman filed a similar report, saying Sam assaulted her after they met at a party. But again, there were no arrests or charges. Sam strongly denied all the allegations leveled against him, stating in a video that he wouldn't be here now if he had indeed done them. However, in 2023, he was temporarily arrested with his roommate Ice Poseidon for SA after they attempted to stream their interactions with an escort in Australia. They were released without any charges though. These days, he travels to different places with his girlfriend, filming content that revolves around his experiences in each location. Another influencer that came under scrutiny for SA back in 2014 was V1I. Jason Vioni, also known as V1I, was well known on YouTube back in 2014. Born in September 1992, Jason worked as a pit reporter on the annual music festival Warped Tour before starting his YouTube channel in January 2012. His channel featured everything from vlogs to social media challenges, and by 2014, he'd gained more than 400,000 subscribers. Shortly after the Sam Pepper scandal began, YouTuber Anaya Magnolio Wright shared her story about the alleged SA she suffered at Jason's hands. According to her, Jason had gotten her drunk, then slept with her without her consent in London. What's worse is that at the time, Jason was 20 years old, while the victim was just 15. Anya encouraged more people to share their stories with her, and they did. Women came forward, sharing similar experiences at the hands of Jason, while others accused him of requesting explicit pictures from them after getting them intoxicated. The puzzling part about all these is that V1I didn't deny the allegations. Instead of taking responsibility, however, he blamed his religious upbringing as a Mormon and the alcohol dependency he developed when he was much younger. But people weren't buying it. He rightfully got condemned for trying to push the blame instead of taking accountability for his actions. And Anaya proved that it wasn't just a silly mistake. What Jason did was not a one-off thing, she said. As proof, she shared screenshots that inferred that he had brought condoms with him when they met, to show that his actions were premeditated and not a result of alcohol. Today, Jason's uploads are about his interactions with nature and his tree planting endeavors. He went on a 2-year hiatus in 2022 and returned to posting again in April this year. The police were never involved in his case, and he was only sentenced in the court of public opinion. But they certainly were 5 years later when actor and YouTuber Ray Diaz got caught in an essay scandal of his own. The Florida-born model and actor rose to fame in 2013 when he starred as Nicholas Reyes in the Hulu original series East Los High. Ray joined YouTube way back in 2010, but didn't start posting until after his acting career took off. He began to post clips from East Los High and soon transitioned into vlogging and lifestyle videos, then joined Team 10, a group of social media influencers founded by Jake Paul. By 2019, Ray's YouTube views had reduced drastically. Although he had over 300,000 subscribers, he struggled to garner up to 90,000 views per video. That attention he lacked soon turned into notoriety in July 2019, when a 17-year-old girl named Angelica Salek took to Instagram to share her experience with him.
You're nowhere near good for me. I can't live my life with your mom. You're threatening me.
Angela shared that she had dated Diaz for a year, and in that time was manipulated and brainwashed into accepting his alleged toxic behavior as love. Ray Diaz was 33 at the time, while the victim was 17. It was bad enough that he was dating a minor, but that wasn't the worst part. According to her, Ray would berate her, threaten her, and even hit her sometimes. All of this, she backed up with video proof. And what did Ray Diaz do after? He changed his Instagram profile with more than 3 million followers at the time to private. The next update we saw came from the Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD. The LAPD is aware of several social media posts related to a social media personality, alleging physical abuse and sexual relations with a minor. A tweet from its official Twitter account said, "Currently, the department has directed a group of investigators to look into these allegations." The following day, July 13th, LAPD gave another update, sharing that the YouTuber had been arrested for SA in San Diego with the assistance of the San Diego Police Department. Ray Diaz's defense? It's something you learn in acting class if you study in New York City. His bail was set at $500,000, and that was the last we heard of the case. YouTuber Jack Densmore runs the channel named Jack Denmo. Based in Toronto, Canada, Jack has been on YouTube since 2017. His channel, which now has close to 1 million subscribers, started out with Vox Pop and street interviews. He regularly interacted with students of McMaster University, a public university in Hamilton, Canada. There are videos of him hitting on students and encouraging some of them to drink and hook up at street parties in the area. He also pulls pranks on them sometimes. Because of this, he was banned from several college campuses across Ontario, including McMaster University. In 2024, news broke of Jack Densmore being on trial for the alleged SA of a former McMaster University student. The woman, who was just 19 when the incident happened in 2020, said she had just completed her first year at the university when they met on Tinder. Jack was 26 at the time and was famous on campus for his social media work. She recognized him immediately and looked forward to meeting him. According to her, the SA happened on their first date. They were supposed to go on a hike, then have dinner or drinks after. But chummy Jack decided it was better if they spent more time in his bedroom. Jack has always encouraged men to make consent videos to prevent allegations, like the one he was charged with. The hack was to not let the lady know she was being filmed. Apparently, he did the same during his meetup with this date from Tinder, but she caught him and asked him to delete the video, after which she attempted to leave the room. This is the point at which she withdrew consent, and Jack allegedly went full beast on her. Jack Denmo has since been found guilty and now awaits sentencing. But that's not all. The former McMaster University student isn't the only one who has taken Jack Densmore to court on an SA allegation. Another woman, whose case is awaiting trial, also charged him with not just SA, but also voyeurism and the distribution of intimate images. Social media is no doubt one of the best things to happen to our world, but with real-life stories like this, it is clear that the fame it gives can also distort people's view of reality. Social media influencers are lovable, but some of them seem to have an undeniable underbelly that makes you wonder if we can really trust anything or anyone we see online. When influencers aren't being sexually deviant, they're being fraudulent. Watch this video next to find out all the times influencers scam their audience and how they were caught by CoffeeZilla. From kickstarting an FBI investigation to sending a criminal to prison for 25 years, here are all the satisfying times influencer scammers got completely destroyed by CoffeeZilla. Imagine placing your trust and your hard-earned money into the hands of someone you admire, someone who you basically gave a career with your support, only to find out they see you as nothing but a paycheck. This is what the fans of influencers have had to suffer. But not anymore, because thanks to CoffeeZilla, we can finally see these terrible people for what they truly are: fraudsters, one of the worst of whom is Logan Paul. CryptoZoo debacle is one of the most chilling examples of how deep these scams run. Logan Paul, a man with millions of followers, a media empire, and an undeniable influence, used his fame to entice people into a nightmarish trap. CryptoZoo was supposed to be a revolutionary NFT-based game. It promised users a chance to hatch and trade virtual creatures, and more importantly, the opportunity to turn a tidy profit. But it was all smoke and mirrors. Beneath the shiny surface of Paul's charisma, there was something rotten, something you could almost feel in your gut. CoffeeZilla did. He saw the warning signs and followed them, uncovering the dark truth. The game was broken from the start. Despite millions of dollars in funding and Logan Paul's endless hype,
I am so excited about this project. It's so fun. It provides a yield with a token, can earn you money, and as a person who understands, I think, the NFT space enough to know what works, what people want, and what they're looking for, I think my game is gonna make some waves.
The game simply didn't work, but the horror doesn't end there. The real devastation came from the people who believed in it. Investors, many of them young, hopeful, and eager to escape financial struggles, poured their savings into this mirage. Because of this, some lost their entire life savings.
I lost around $50,000 in CryptoZoo.
I lost $40,000.
I lost around $15,000 US.
I lost $25,000.
$120,000.
$500,000 Australian, which is $500,000.
As CoffeeZilla peeled back the layers of the scam, he revealed that Logan Paul himself seemed to be the only one who had profited. Children, families, everyday people were left with worthless tokens and empty promises. When CoffeeZilla's first expose dropped in December 2022, the anger was palpable. The backlash was swift and fierce. But Logan Paul didn't show remorse. Instead, he threatened legal action.
Yes, you heard me right. Logan Paul sued me after I tried to get his fans, the CryptoZoo investors, a full refund.
Yet the pressure was too great, and eventually, he promised to refund the investors.
We want to offer a rewards program for players who are disappointed in the status of the game. So essentially, you're going to be able to burn your base egg or your base animal for the mint price, which was 0.1 ETH or the equivalent in BNB. I am personally committing 1,000 ETH to this, which is about $1.3 million right now for players who want to get out.
As of today, those promises remain largely unfulfilled. But here's where things take an even darker turn. In 2024, Paul filed a defamation lawsuit against CoffeeZilla. This wasn't about clearing his name. It was a move to silence the man who had exposed him, to bury the truth. CoffeeZilla, undeterred, pushed forward, uncovering more dirt on Paul's latest venture, Liquid Marketplace, which, unsurprisingly, has its own fraud allegations looming. And what thanks does he get for all of that? Doxing, threats, and continually facing legal action. Which might make you wonder, why does he keep going? Why does Coffee keep looking for the truth, even when it means endangering himself? Well, it's personal. His own mother, in a moment of vulnerability after a cancer diagnosis, was duped into a fake alternative treatment by some fake gurus. Though she survived after eventually getting the right treatment, the emotional scars left behind are a constant reminder of the dangers that influencers have on real people. Many of us watch these people and think, how could anyone believe them? But Coffee witnessed firsthand how people with influence can, well, influence people. If they can convince a woman with cancer to take alternative medicine instead of getting the help she desperately needed, what couldn't they do? And what are the repercussions for people who might not have a son like Coffee to tell them the truth? This is why CoffeeZilla dedicated his life to exposing those who exploit others for profit. especially those who exploit people who cannot fight for themselves, like kids, or even worse, kids who depend on charity to survive. As twisted as Logan Paul's CryptoZoo was, the Save the Kids token might be even more heartbreaking. It was marketed as a charity, a beacon of hope in the ruthless world of crypto.
My name's Fraser.
My name's Jarvis.
I'm Tico.
I'm Raiska. I'm Nikon.
And I support Save the Kids token.
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 The promise was simple: buy into the token, and a portion of the fees would go to a charity supporting children in need. A noble cause, right? But this was no charity. This was a pump and dump scheme, one of the most manipulative cons in crypto. The influencers behind it, including members of FaZe Clan, hyped the project to their millions of fans, assuring them they were contributing to something good while making a profit. But in reality, the very people who promoted it, like Jarvis, Kikon, and Kay, sold off their tokens right after launch, basically pulling the rug from underneath the feet of starving children. People who looked up to these influencers were left holding the bag, watching as their investments evaporated in an instant. CoffeeZilla exposed the mastermind behind this disaster: Fraser K, Jordan Galen, and none other than Sam Pepper, a YouTube personality notorious for pushing boundaries. These were not innocent mistakes. These were calculated moves designed to deceive and make money. And while Kay promised to refund victims and hinted at suing CoffeeZilla for his investigation, it was all smoke. Nothing came of these claims. Today, neither the investors nor the charities promised have received anything from Save the Kids. Then, there's Dylan Danis. He isn't some grand mastermind pulling strings from the shadows. No, Danis is something far more pathetic, an influencer who would sell his integrity for chicken change. CoffeeZilla knew this, and he decided to put Danis to the test. What would it take to get Danis to promote a scam?
So I contacted him to contact Dylan on my behalf. And I told him to say, "Hi Dylan, I'm launching a crypto NFT platform called sour.gg and was wondering what your rate is for an Instagram story post or Twitter post for promotion. We can provide all the marketing copy. Please let me know as we're trying to launch relatively soon."
As it turned out, $1,000 was enough. CoffeeZilla created a fake crypto project, paid Danis to promote it, and watched as he blindly endorsed it without doing a shred of research. The video exposing Danis is both shocking and infuriating. Here's a man, trusted by his fans, willing to sell them out for pocket change. And if you think this was a one-off, think again. Danis has been linked to over 20 other dubious crypto projects. The ripple effect of his greed is immeasurable, with countless people losing their hard-earned money because someone they admired was willing to lie for a quick payday. But perhaps one of the most brazen scams uncovered by CoffeeZilla was that of Ice Poseidon, or Paul Danino. His scheme was as cold and calculated as they come. He created CX Coin, a cryptocurrency marketed as a way to support content creators. It sounded innovative, noble even, but it was a trap. In early 2022, Ice Poseidon executed a textbook rug pull, siphoning $500,000 from the project's liquidity pool. Before anyone could react, he had already secured himself a shiny new Tesla. What's worse, when CoffeeZilla confronted him, Ice Poseidon admitted to stealing the money, almost as if he was proud of it.
You want to keep the money that's not yours, that you took from the project, even though you failed to deliver.
I mean, I'm not really sure what you want me to say, but yeah.
I'm trying to get you to return the money because it's 100% still available and you could do that.
Yeah, I could give the money back. It is within my power. But I'm going to look out for myself and not do that. I don't know what else to say. That's just the most honest answer.
His defense? He might return some of the money, but of course, we all know how that story ends. If you thought these stories were bad, just wait until you hear about Jay Mazzini. He was an influencer who gained popularity by posting videos of himself handing out large sums of money to strangers. His public persona was that of a generous, self-made businessman, someone who could afford to give because he had figured it all out. But beneath the surface, Mazzini was running a series of scams that would make your blood run cold. From Bitcoin fraud where he convinced fans to sell him Bitcoin at above-market rates to elaborate Ponzi schemes. Mazzini was a predator. CoffeeZilla's investigation helped blow the lid off his fraudulent empire, exposing the depths of Mazzini's deception. His fans weren't just losing money, they were losing faith in humanity. Mazzini's downfall was inevitable, and in 2022, he was sentenced to 84 months in prison. It's a small sliver of justice, but for those he scammed, the damage is permanent. This is the most high-profile takedown of CoffeeZilla yet. A cautionary tale of greed, betrayal, unchecked power, and the consequences of placing blind faith in influencers, no matter how charismatic they appear. Sam Bankman-Fried, once hailed as a visionary, had ruthlessly exploited the trust of his investors, diverting billions of dollars for his own personal gain. The crypto market was already plenty shady, but the collapse of FTX rocked the space to its very foundations, causing widespread panic and financial ruin. Countless investors lost their life savings, their dreams shattered by a man who had promised them riches but left them with rags. CoffeeZilla's investigative videos were, unfortunately, not able to get all those hopefuls the riches they were dreaming of, but they gave them some sense of justice. In a series of videos, CoffeeZilla was able to peel back the curtain on FTX's dark underbelly, exposing a labyrinth of deception and greed. It became obvious that Bankman and his cronies had orchestrated a sophisticated scheme, manipulating the market and enriching themselves, as opposed to providing the investment opportunity that they promised. All of that investigation thankfully culminated in something tangible, as SBF was imprisoned not too long after. At the time of recording this video, SBF has received a 25 years prison sentence, but he has since filed an appeal, which we can only hope will fail so he can suffer the consequences of his actions. SafeMoon, yet another rising star in the cryptocurrency universe, was once again revealed to be nothing but a sinister Ponzi scheme. CoffeeZilla's investigation exposed the shocking truth behind SafeMoon's deceptive facade. John Caroni, the CEO, and other members of the team had allegedly built a carefully crafted scam, preying on the naivety of unsuspecting investors. The promised massive gains were nothing more than a mirage, a lure to draw in more victims. Scandal was further amplified by the involvement of well-known celebrities like Soulja Boy, who, like some of the other influencers here, had promoted SafeMoon without doing his due diligence into the company. Their endorsements had served as a powerful endorsement for the project, misleading countless individuals into believing in the legitimacy of SafeMoon. As a result of CoffeeZilla's expose, the SafeMoon project suffered a catastrophic collapse, and while it unfortunately did leave investors devastated and out of hard-earned money, it also meant that Caroni and his cohort could no longer terrorize unsuspecting investors. What's more, the FBI and SEC have brought charges against SafeMoon's top executives, including CEO John Caroni and CTO Thomas Smith, for fraud and unregistered offering of crypto securities. Following that, Caroni tried to declare his innocence on X, mentioning that he refused to be bullied. But when it's the feds doing the supposed bullying, it's difficult to see how an X declaration of interest would be any defense. CoffeeZilla's portfolio of treacherous influencer takedowns thankfully extends beyond the crypto space, and his expose on Disrupt, a once thriving channel, proves that. In a video that was revealing and also somewhat sentimental, considering that CoffeeZilla himself used to be a fan of that channel, CoffeeZilla was able to dismantle the manipulations behind Disrupt, exposing the charismatic figure at its helm as nothing more than a con artist. So, what was the con? Well, for whatever reason, the brain behind the Disrupt channel, Jack, decided that he was going to sell a part of his YouTube channel. By investing a certain amount of money, his viewers would supposedly own a chunk of the channel and earn shareholder revenue as a result.
I am selling this channel. Well, a portion of it, because a change is coming. Path A and Path B. Path A, I believe, is the best option. This is the equity crowdfunding path. This means that right now, at this present moment, you can own a portion of Disrupt. For a minimum of $100, you will receive 23 shares of the Disrupt Corporation. In return, you'll get a percentage of the net profit that this channel makes every single year.
However, CoffeeZilla was able to show that all of that talk was nothing but smoke and mirrors. The channel was over-evaluated, and Jack was really only trying to con his viewers into helping him pay his $500,000 debt. The consequences of CoffeeZilla's video were swift and brutal. As trust disappeared, loyal subscribers fled in droves, leaving what was once a thriving channel in chilling silence. And Jack, probably trying to escape even worse consequences, vanished without a trace, leaving behind only the haunting echoes of disillusioned followers. And we have yet another crypto scam, this one called Celsius, that unfortunately lured investors with promises of sky-high returns, but was exposed by CoffeeZilla to be a fraudulent venture. Celsius painted a deceptively rosy picture of its financial health, luring investors who believed their funds were safe into a false sense of security. Behind the curtain, however, the platform was spiraling into chaos. CoffeeZilla's exposés laid bare the subtle tactics employed by Celsius, misleading promises and aggressive marketing cloaked in the allure of quick riches. Now, in spite of the mountain of evidence that CoffeeZilla presented in his videos, there remained a dedicated following that believed that CoffeeZilla was on a witch hunt and Celsius was a legitimate business. They must have changed their tune, though, when the feds finally caught up to CoffeeZilla, bursting down the Celsius operation and arresting the CEO, Alex Mashinsky, on multiple counts of fraud. The fallout has been devastating. Many investors have lost not just their savings, but their faith in the cryptocurrency landscape and even the wider financial investment market that now feels fraught with peril. In a shocking revelation that sent ripples through the cryptocurrency world, CoffeeZilla turned his investigative lens on Terra Luna, exposing a scandal that revealed the dark underbelly of one of the most notorious crypto collapses. Luna, once celebrated for its innovative approach to decentralized finance, was, in truth, a precarious house of cards, built on misleading promises and unsustainable mechanisms. The scam at the heart of Luna revolved around its stablecoin, UST, which promised stability and high yields, enticing investors with the lure of easy profits. However, as CoffeeZilla meticulously dissected the narrative, it became evident that this so-called stability was nothing more than an illusion, propped up by dubious practices and a lack of transparency. When the system inevitably collapsed, the fallout was catastrophic. Investors found themselves stripped of their life savings, left to grapple with the distressing reality of a once promising investment turned into a financial nightmare. CoffeeZilla's expose on Luna and other crypto scams not only peeled back the layers of deceit surrounding the specific cryptocurrency markets, but also serve as a haunting reminder that in the world of cryptocurrency, the promise of easy wealth often masks the most crafty of traps. Steve Will Do It, a name synonymous with controversy. His involvement with the shady gambling platform Roobet revealed just how far influencers will go to exploit their followers. CoffeeZilla's discovered that Steve Will Do It not only promoted the gambling platform, but intentionally downplayed the risk, all while pocketing a fortune from his partnership. Despite his best efforts to scrub the evidence from his channel, CoffeeZilla's investigation laid bare the truth. And yet, just like the others, Steve tried to deny it all and even threatened to sue Coffee into silence. But as of today, no legal action has been taken, and the victims remain forgotten. Next time you see an influencer promising you great fortune, if you just invest in this revolutionary thing they're marketing, wake up and smell the coffee. In the end, the power of influencers stretches far beyond trendy products and viral challenges. They shape public opinion, influence our youngest generations, and sometimes even cross lines into criminal behavior, all while maintaining a grip on millions of followers. As we've seen throughout this documentary, the seemingly glamorous world of influencers harbors some deeply disturbing realities. But the most important question remains: how much control are we willing to let them have over our thoughts, our wallets, and even our values? Awareness is our first line of defense. By understanding the tactics and hidden agendas at play, we can start making more informed choices and maybe, just maybe, reclaim some of the influence they hold over us. Thank you for watching. Stay critical, stay informed, and remember, the true power always lies with those who choose where to give their attention.